Hello and welcome to Sutton Impact Family Style, episode 159. I'm Jason.
And I'm Bill, and we're calling in from our respective bunkers, and we hope you all are bunkered down, doing it the right way. Don't go out, don't go to restaurants, don't do anything silly. You know, while there's a lot of great TV, a lot of great entertainment we're going to talk about today, that's where you should be. Be with your family, your loved ones, in your house. Take a walk. Don't go out. Don't go to places where people are gathering. Just don't do it.
Yeah, but just let's, sacrifice for a couple of weeks, get this thing where we need it to be, and then we're back to normal, which is what we all want. So, yeah.
That's right. A world without sports, though, it's been tough, Jay.
It has been.
You know, your Uncle John said that he can't wait till the WNBA starts because he knows they'll play because they don't have crowds.
Yeah.
But a lot of ones. Wow, the XFL, which is, you can argue the XFL shutting down two different ways. One, it's good because the potential is starting to fall off. So now maybe they have a chance to get some better talent, move to some better markets, and then reboot next year. So it could be good for that. The other way, it could be people just see it as failing, and next year they won't be as curious and they won't come out. So it's hard to say where that one's going to be. I'm rooting for them, though.
Yeah, I think they can't just come out with season 2 next year. Like, you've got to, you're going to have to bring people in some way, shape, around. Like, there's got to be some kind of hook that's going to be like XFL, XFL 2, the second season, but we added this, something.
Yeah.
I don't know.
And plus, there'll be some of that, like PJ Walker and some of those guys, I expect they're going to get an NFL deal.
Yeah, I saw an article on Bleacher Report, and they named about 8 players, he being the top one, that they think won't be, is definitely, most of these guys have already been on practice squads,
Right.
and they think, the XFL did a nice job of showing that, maybe these guys can play, let's bring them back in. And PJ Walker's only 25, and that other quarterback is only 22, who I think spent like 5 weeks on a practice squad, then got cut. But I mean, they'll get another shot.
And I have to shout out to my Tampa Bay Vipers, who led the league in offense, led the league in defense, led the league in turnovers, or 1-4. And my Oklahoma State quarterback, Corn Dog, who did a good job.
Yeah, it had its moments. And like I said, I think some of the innovations, the NFL should just, borrow, steal, whatever you want to call it.
The thing that shocked me the most, and I guess it shouldn't have, after things went along, but I thought there's no way the NCAA would cancel March Madness, because the amount of the check that they get and the dependence of all those college athletic programs on that check. I mean, this is their biggest paycheck of the year.
Yeah.
So I was surprised. And I still thought they'd play it in front of nobody, but then once the Utah-Oklahoma City thing happened, and then the NBA shut it down, that was really the impetus to shut down everything.
That was honestly a great wake-up call, because you saw how young, healthy athlete had it and exposed, through a series of just the refs that were in this game, the two teams that had played, the press that were there. Like, all of a sudden you had exposed, I think almost every NBA team had been exposed within a week and a half, with referees and the press and teams traveling. So,
well, I'm never surprised that the NBA is the leader in the clubhouse, because they're just decisive. They're just quick.
Yeah.
They just do things. So our news of the day, the NFLPA ratifies the contract just like we knew they would.
Yep.
Although it was closer than I thought it would be.
Yeah. Well, there's some immediate things. We're getting a 7th playoff team this year in both conferences. We're getting expanded rosters, both regular practice, active rosters. And they can't use both the franchise and the transition tag in the same season. So, Dallas can't do Dak and Amari Cooper. They got to sign one and pick one, so the players got some things, and the drug testing. So,
yeah, and so all those things are positive. I knew it was going to pass all along because, guys whose career is only going to be 3 or 4 years, they're not worried about what's happening in year 10.
No, and they got it was only a percentage point, but a percentage point of $1 billion, whatever they actually make per year in the NFL, is a lot of money. The cap went up $10 million this year. And then I think the thing they lost
down from last year.
Yeah. And they added the 17th game starting, what, 2021 most likely?
2021, and you know they're going to reopen probably in 4 or 5 years to go after that 18th game.
Oh, that's happening. Yeah.
That's happening. I mean, that's why this was so important to the owners. Once you move to 17, you might as well move to 18. They got rid of an exhibition game.
Yes.
Which, again, I feel bad for those guys on the bubble trying to make a team, because that's when they get to really be seen in game conditions.
It's true.
I mean, I don't want to see it as a fan, see guys I don't know, but you still got to respect these guys for trying to fight. So I think that's another positive for the XFL. I think guys will get cut that probably could have made the roster and will end up in the XFL now.
But we also, like I said, we have the expanded game day rosters. And we have the expanded practice squad up to 14 players. So while they get less time, and again, I know as a Steeler fan,
the practice squad is moving from what, 8 to 14?
I think it's 10 to 14, yeah. And then game day rosters are averaging, I think you're having 4 more active players, I want to say.
Okay.
So, as a Steeler fan, I got excited because now, the Chabaz skipper guy and, some of those guys, like the smaller the players we fall in love with in the preseason, although you said less preseason game, we'll be able to fall in love. But now they have a better chance of sticking around, on the active roster / playoff roster.
Right.
So that's something.
Yeah, the golf tournament canceled after a day. The players, it took Disney World longer to shut down than I thought it should have. And I was pretty upset about that on social media all week. That I thought of anything they could have canceled, that's the first thing that should have been shut down.
Yeah.
You got people flying from over the world and then flying back out. So if you come in contact with something, you got a natural system to spread it. And so, I don't know. I was upset with that.
Yeah, again, I think we talked a little bit about
Anaheim 2 days before they shut down Orlando.
It's true. It's very true. And again, I think, I'll try to keep this as least political as possible, but I feel like in our current state where we have all these different voices coming from everywhere, this is one of those times where we really needed a trusted voice to say this is the exact situation, like one person to listen to, not throw out the crazy people like saying that they could cure coronavirus through your television or some weird toothpaste like some of the nutball religious people, but just if we had a medical person that was just the medical voice of the United States or the world that could come out and say, this is exactly what's happening. This is what we need to do. Because I feel like...
The guy that's been speaking, though, from the disease control side, I think he has credibility.
Oh, I think he does, too. But I feel like the information's just been spattered out here and there. And I think in an attempt not to panic on some level, we were given, the sugar-coated dose of what was happening. And I know for myself, like, every time I read anything, I felt like I had to Google, like, from 10 different sources to try and match up to see if this is something I can really put faith in as far as what's happening. So I found it frustrating on I was like, I just wish I had faith in any news source to be like, okay, this gives me, this is the information I actually need to have, which I feel like we're finally getting in these last few days. But I don't know.
So what I think is really interesting about all this is that people are reading these books that have this kind of a scenario in it, like The Stand.
Oh, I've watched both
popular books right now.
I've watched Outbreak and Contagion this week, and I have to say, Contagion. If you can stand to watch this, now I'm a weirdo. I watch like disaster movies when I travel, but Contagion was a Soderbergh film, with Fat Matt Damon and Gwyneth Paltrow and some other people in it. But like this movie's 15 years old, and they talk about hand washing, social distancing. They show you like the Fibonacci-like sequence where disease, how it spreads so quickly. And they show you, like a guy on the subway who touches the pole and then somebody else who touches the pole. Like it's sort of terrifying, but also like kind of crazy, and then you learn about the economics of like, even when we finally test and we feel like we have a vaccination, we still have to mass produce, manufacture, and distribute. Like it's an incredible film. And I feel like it gives you a lot for a fictional film. It teaches you a lot.
Yeah, maybe we should make it required.
Yeah. And I feel like that movie of all of the film, like Soderbergh's pretty I feel like that one sort of came and went, and nobody really thought much of it at the time. But it's pretty spot on. Outbreak does not hold up. I'll skip to part of my That one with the monkeys and Dennis, and Dustin Hoffman and Cuba Gooding Jr. Not really great. Also, from a Me Too standpoint, it has Kevin Spacey, Cuba Gooding Jr., and I think two other people that had some pretty sketchy last couple of seasons of years of life. So it holds up poorly on that standpoint as well.
Right.
It's like the Me Too All-Star movie on a weird way.
Well, you and I were talking offline about our NBA ideas.
Yes.
So why don't you lead with your idea?
All right. I figure we need social distancing, and we need NBA. So I thought that the NBA should team up with Twitch. And Twitch is a video game streaming service that works through Amazon. And it doesn't have to be Twitch, but Twitch is an easy way to stream your video games. So each team makes all their players get together, not get together literally, but get together via Twitch. So they're playing in their own homes, safe distance, social distancing. And we have a giant NBA 2K tournament where first we determine who is the best player on each individual team. And then we seat them based on their actual records in the real life right now, and then have them play. If LeBron James happened to be the best player on the Lakers and Giannis was the best player on the Bucks, then maybe they meet in a game of 2K again in the virtual world. And then, because I work in film and television, we're also not working right now. We get celebrities who love basketball or love being funny, and let them be the play-by-play, and they can stream in Twitch, and at the same time, Twitch has a very active, so you can have people from home, making comments the entire time, and we treat it like a fun tournament through video games. And maybe we make it for charity or something along those lines. But that way everybody can participate without actually leaving their homes. Not that you shouldn't get out and get some sun, but I think it'd be a fun way to keep the NBA going.
Sure, I like that. My idea was, depending on how many games are missed, instead of coming back to having the traditional NBA playoff format, the NBA's made all kind of noise about wanting to have a tournament format in the middle of the year. So I'm thinking now, since we don't have March Madness, we have an NBA tournament, single elimination. Every team is seeded, so no more conferences, no more East and West. We seed them from one to the bottom, and they play, and we have a champion. Might not call it the NBA League champion, might call it the NBA Tournament champion. But so we replace March Madness, we do the tournament, see how people like it, and every team's involved, so every market has something to go for.
See,
it's not single elimination, maybe it's best of threes all the way through, I don't know.
Right. I definitely like that, because if you're the NBA right now, and you're going to miss, people are saying a minimum of 30 days, but, they think that's kind of optimistic, it might be 60 days.
Right.
Like, if you pick your season back up now, then you're playing almost all the way into the new preseason, which, your players aren't going to have any time off. I know they could technically argue this is their time off to recover, but it would still be an extended long season, which really wouldn't work. So you might be better off just having like a weird, one-off, like you said, the tournament. That's this year's, not NBA champion, but,
Yeah, NBA tournament champion, whatever you want to call it.
NBA tournament champion, and then we start next year when we're back and everybody's good to go. I want to. I guess LeBron James looks like, for a man with more miles than almost anybody at this point in their career, usually to the point where people start breaking down. And I know LeBron James might be an alien in real life, but it seemed like he had pushed all his chips into the table this year. He was playing on an MVP level. He's like, I'm going to be the best player in the league. Let's go. And you worry about a guy with that many miles, like how many years does he have left? So, if the season is taken away from him, that's, Giannis, presumably, knock on wood, hopefully he's going to have, a decade of being, one of the best players in the NBA. And a lot of these young guys we have coming up, they've got time. Whereas a guy like LeBron, who, again, he's already destroyed expectations as far as health and everything else for a player his size and his ability. So maybe he can continue to do this. But it seemed like he really viewed this year as like, this will be my team this year. I'll pass the torch to Anthony Davis next year. I'm going to go all – because he's been playing all out. Like, he hasn't been taking LeBron – there's no vacation this year like he's had in the past where he just, misses 2 weeks of Cleveland games. Like, this was it. And,
He played hard.
Yeah.
He played well. And he's been dominant.
He's been, depending on your stat guy belief and analytic guy, like, it's him and Giannis for the MVP this year. So
I'd say it makes sense.
it's hard to imagine anyone else entering that conversation right now. I feel like it's those guys to lose, specifically probably Giannis's to lose. But
Well, I'm sure James Harden will have something to say about it.
well, he'll whine about it, sure. But you know, go win a couple playoff series and look like you're competent in the playoffs when it matters, and we'll give you another MVP.
So, one of the things we want to do today is to give everybody some binging suggestions. Because if you're doing what we said to do and not going out, except for walks in your neighborhood or walking in the park and staying away from people, you're going to be watching a lot of television.
Yes.
And television now includes Netflix and everything else. So, what are your recommendations, Jason, for people that need a couple series to binge on?
I would say I'm going to try to do. We'll try to do a couple every week. So I think we got a couple weeks of people needing to binge. So maybe a couple for each week, and then you can binge a lot this week. For a crime show, like if you're, if you grew up with The Sopranos, and you liked your Breaking Bads, your Ozarks, you're just into the full crime series. Even though it's fairly popular, I think, but Peaky Blinders, I think it has 6 seasons on Netflix. Cillian Murphy, I don't know how you pronounce his name, but he's fantastic. It's a great Irish gangster show. He's phenomenal in it. It's got great storytelling, excellent acting, and it's got the family dynamics, the character dynamics. It's got everything you'd ask for in those kind of shows.
All right.
Comedy, I've actually, I'm trying to think where it's available. I've been back on a 30 Rock kick just because I love Tina Fey and I love that show. And it's Tracy Morgan.
Okay.
It's just such a good show.
It's probably on Hulu, right?
I think it might be on Hulu. It's hard. I mean, I know it's on one of them. It's just they all bounce around so much. It's always hard to get, wherever they are. And then I guess if I'm going to give, the traditional horror pick, there's 2 seasons. This is still a TV show. There's 2 seasons of The Kingdom. It is dubbed, but it's like a 16th, 17th century medieval Japan sort of situation. And it's really good. It's like a zombie show mixed with swords and gladiators and everything else. And then this show is a show that I'll recommend to anybody that I know people don't always love animated shows, let alone animated shows based on video games, let alone probably serious animated shows. But Castlevania, which has 3 seasons on Netflix, is absolutely phenomenal. Just so good. So I have to give that a shout out. But again, I realize that it's animated, so you're going to have your limited people, but it's really good.
All right, I'm going to give a couple now too. I'm going to give you, if anybody has HBO on demand, all the series that have ever been on HBO are on demand. So go and watch Rome. 2 seasons, highly entertaining, highly historically accurate, but a great story.
Very good, yes.
So I'd recommend that. And then one of my all-time favorite series from FX, Justified, that'll be on Hulu or a variety of other servers. But if you've never watched Justified, this is a great chance to sit down. I think it was 5 seasons, right?
Yes, 5, exactly 5, yeah.
5 seasons. And the character development and the storylines were so well done. There's never been a better antagonist and protagonist in the same series. So those are my 2 picks. But we'll be watching lots and lots and lots. I just started Ozark last night, and as soon as I'm done with that, I'm going to go to Peaky Blinders now.
And again, there's a ton of great stuff. We'll shout out a little bit more every week. We'll try to give one for all the categories, if you will, each week.
And if you got cable and you want to do anything else, Turner Classic Movies.
Can't beat it.
Go and enjoy some of the great movies of all time.
And I guess while we're in the entertainment section, I did watch 2 new movies yesterday.
Okay.
I watched Snatchers, which is sort of a goofy horror comedy that sort of deals with teenagers and sex. It has like a 7.5 on IMDb, which is pretty high, especially for a horror comedy. Both the young actresses in it are very entertaining and thrilling. And then, certainly not from an acting standpoint, but from the projects he picks standpoint, one of my favorite people ever is Daniel Radcliffe, a.k.a. Harry Potter. Because he just does it seems like he just does a lot of really interesting roles. Like, I feel like he could have gone the route and done just about anything. but I feel like he always picks something unique and weird. Like he did Hair on on in British Broadway. Like he's done a lot of stuff where I feel like he's not just he looks at creative projects, and he did one based on a comic book called Guns Akimbo, which is a very it reminds me of a very early 2000s, late 90s sort of a lot of fast cuts, and it's a little annoying in that way. Almost feels like a music video at times. But the premise is that we've sort of reverted to there's an evil thing online that basically is almost like the Running Man but done illegally, where they pit people against each other, and people are online, they're betting and watching and the violence and participating via terrible YouTube comment kind of section. And Daniel Radcliffe is sort of a internet troll who types a lot of stuff. So they decide they're going to throw him into the game, and they literally bolt 2 guns with 50 bullets each to each of his hands, so he can't take them off. He can't use his hands, only to shoot. And then it's just sort of an action comedy from that standpoint, moving on forward.
Okay.
But in these times where you're going to spend, again, make sure you go outside, get your vitamin D. Spend some time in the sun with social distancing, get some exercise in that way. But when you're home and you want fun stuff to watch, there's this is probably the best time ever.
If you get a dog, take your dog for an extra walk.
Yes. And then next week I'll also throw out some video game recommendations too. I'll maybe call my brother and see if he has a few, and then we'll have a video game section too.
Yeah, I was hoping to have Tommy Smith on the show with us, but Tommy canceled his trip to come in. I was going to have Tommy talk about the NBA and the G League, but Tommy just didn't want to get on the airplane.
Which is really understandable and probably the smart thing to do right now. So.
Yep. So in the week where I had tickets to the NCAA first-round games in Tampa and tickets to the Pirates and the Yankees, plus watching sports on TV, I am in a desert land this week. But I will be fixated to see who Tom Brady talks to.
Well, it's funny you mentioned that. I was going to give us our Tom Brady moment. Our GOAT moment, if you will. Supposedly, San Francisco reportedly is out on Tom Brady.
As is Tennessee.
As is Tennessee. Supposedly, the team from where you're at right now is the most hardcore we want Tom Brady right now. And that's your Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
I know. They have enough money. They can write the check.
They have enough money. They've got 2 of the best receivers in football. They got O.J. Howard, a nice young tight end. Warm weather, which I'm sure is good for Tom Brady. In the NFC, away from Mahomes, away from Deshaun Jackson. Because, the Titans re-signed Ryan Tannehill. He's going to get paid 4 years, a lot of monies, $62 million guaranteed. And Baltimore, who's already a contender, just traded for Calais Campbell, Pro Bowl defensive end, as if they need more defense on that team.
What is with Jacksonville? They have a farm team for everybody else?
It would appear so. It would definitely appear so.
It would appear so.
So it does look like Brady Watch is now the 2 most exciting teams you thought for him, is if he wanted a contender, being Tennessee, they're out. San Francisco is out. So you still got New England, Tampa, but we have no idea if he's any interest in Tampa.
And the Chargers.
And Oakland.
I'm still betting on the Chargers if he goes.
Well, he's got his production company. He loves California. He's a California kid. LA is probably a place that his wife would be very happy.
Playing a new stadium. They got a lot of money. They need help.
A lot of people are speculating that it basically comes down to the game of chicken that Tom Brady and Bill Belichick are going to play. Because Brady needs an offer big enough from New England that it doesn't make it look like he's crawling back with his tail between his legs. And Belichick needs an offer just small enough that he's not giving Brady what he wants. But if Brady leaves, he can at least go, hey, look what we offered him. It's pretty good money.
But New England needs some weapons for Brady to sign.
I think in a post, he's the GOAT.
He is the GOAT.
Like, he's been to 9 Super Bowls, he's won 6. But I don't see them, in a much lesser level. Like, I can't imagine Ben Roethlisberger ever winning another Super Bowl as a starting quarterback. or Phillip Rivers or Tom Brady. You know, I just probably not even Drew Brees. Like I think a lot of these guys are just they're done.
Well, Tampa Bay and the LA Chargers both need the one thing he can give them: instant credibility.
Instant credibility.
And tickets at the box office. He can deliver both of those.
Yes. And in LA, LA I think needs it even more. Because they're almost a completely obscure team, and
they need to sell about 30,000 seat licenses.
And despite the fact I watch a ton of NFL, I can't stop calling them the San Diego Chargers. I forget they're the LA Chargers every single time I talk about them.
Yeah.
Unless it's how irrelevant they are in the city of LA.
All right, everyone, listen. Stay safe. Please do what we said. Please stay inside. Please don't go anywhere and hang out with a bunch of people. You can wait. That's what social media is for. Hang out, do Google Hangout, do whatever kind of hangouts you want to do on social media. Talk to your friends, invite them over, bring them in, play games online with friends, do whatever you want to do. Just don't go out and help this virus be any worse than this.
Yeah, it was like, of all the times in the world, like you said, you got Twitter, you got Skype, you can talk in person, you have Netflix, all the streaming services, you have access to almost every movie, every television show ever made. Video games, like, free on your phone for Fortnite to, high expensive PC games. Like, it's a pretty great time to be alive from an entertainment standpoint. So.
And listen, if you need a great meal, go to Goldbelly online. You can find some amazing food from all over the country. Just have it delivered to your house the next day. Pay a little more, but you're not going to be spending much money because you're home all the time. Don't go to the restaurant. Go to Goldbelly. And
it's coming flash frozen, so you're going to be cooking and heating it. So I think you're safe as far as food goes. I don't want to say too much, but
absolutely. Great comfort food, great desserts, pizza, barbecue, whatever you want. Cheesesteaks from Philadelphia, they get it all.
And on another way, if you fill your house with, eggs and vegetables and light proteins and some oatmeal, like, this can be a chance to sort of jumpstart the diet. You're going out less, drinking less,
Yeah.
Sort of take this, 2 weeks as a way to, like, they say do anything for 14 days as a form of habit. Like, maybe you can sort of make this yourself. I'm going to save money. I'm going to eat healthy. It's not the worst thing in the world.
Not at all. All right, everybody. We'll talk at you next week.